Okay. So we are good to go. It is recording on my desktop. So
All right, there we go. The miracle of technology. Wow.
man, so maybe this
Awesome.
this is like a good lesson in mindset even right away, right? Because we tried, I don't know, maybe 8 times to go live and it didn't work, but there's always a
Exactly.
workaround somewhere.
Well, that is the crux of the whole mindset book, right? You could look at it as this is the end. See, screw it. See you next week, or let's grow from there.
Right, absolutely. So, for those of you guys who are just joining us, this is Coach Fabian, and I am Asha Wilkerson. And we had this great idea to go live this morning on Instagram. And of course, you know, everything. What is it? What is that old saying? Like, if it can fail, it will, or something like that, which is not a growth
Oh,
mindset.
well, it's kind of Murphy's law. What will happen?
Yes, that's what it
What
is.
can happen will happen.
Exactly. That's
So,
totally it. Totally it. So, we are here this morning to share mindset with you. So, this is a book that's been floating around my community, the education community. I'm a community college professor as well as an attorney, but this mindset book was floating around my orientation when I first started teaching full time. And I'd heard so much about it, and I finally just got around to reading it about 2.5 years later. And I can tell you that I have not read the entire book, but I'm taking it chapter by chapter. So I posted earlier
hmm
in the week or last week that I wanted to talk about mindset in sports. And Fabian reached back and said that he wanted to talk about it as well. So here we are. This is the conversation we're about to have this morning.
uh, it's also an honor of mine to be talking about mindset because I think in terms of the biggest potential of growth, the mind is primary. So you could have the best diet, you could have the best coach, you could have the best training program, but if your mindset is not where it needs to be, then it's all for naught. It's
Right,
you can't experience the growth you need
right.
inter- you need to have. But just to go back, it's like I got into the mindset book by all these podcasters I listened to in terms of like, Ben Greenfield and Tim Ferriss and all these guys. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, you gotta read this book. And I read it and I did the audiobook as well. And I was blown away because looking at reading at this book, I realized I had, for the most part, a pretty fixed mindset. Like, I'm this old and I can't do this, and
Right.
because I'm this old, and it's like, no, no, I don't. Like, I could, I could do great things if I just changed my mindset.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what like the fixed mindsets and the growth mindsets are. Because I also noticed in certain areas of my life that I definitely have a very fixed mindset, but not all areas, thankfully.
Right.
So the author Carol Dweck, who is a doctor, Dr. Carol Dweck, wrote this book out of Stanford, and she describes the fixed mindset as thinking that our abilities are like we can't improve upon our abilities, right? We just
Right.
are where we are, and that's it. Can't improve, can't go anywhere. That's done, right?
That's it. And a lot of people that I've interacted with, specifically in like the sports and fitness community, think that you have this God-given talent from birth, and
Right,
it's like if you can't dunk now, you'll never be able to
right,
dunk.
right, right,
you know, and it's not true. It's very not true because at one point in time, Michael Jordan couldn't dunk.
right,
You know, Kobe couldn't shoot the way Kobe could have shot.
right,
So it's for me, it's very eye opening in terms of why do we have this fixed mindset?
right,
How did we develop it?
right,
And being a dad of two young girls, 4 and 6,
mm-hmm.
I see it trying to manifest itself more so in my 4-year-old than my 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll do like foot races, and obviously she's 4, and her sister is bigger and taller, and the sister would win, and she'd be like, "I could never win."
Right,
She'll start crying, and me being now cognizant of the fixed mindset, I'll sit her down and it's like, well, when you get bigger and stronger and train, and one day you will beat your sister.
Right.
And she looks at me and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna train some more. I'm gonna run some more." And she's foster from a very early age to get the maximum benefit from it. I'm not saying like, you're pushing 40, screw it, but it's something that is pretty interesting in terms of like how it manifests itself in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important as like for folks who are working with younger people, to just really foster that in children, right? You may not be able to do it right now, but guess what? You work a little bit harder, improve on the areas that you're weak in, and you will get better. And so that's the fixed mindset it is what it is. Growth mindset is I might not be there yet, but I can get better. So a couple of the examples that Dr. Dweck uses in the book, she talks about Muhammad Ali, right? Muhammad Ali, world famous boxer, everyone now looks at him and says, oh yeah, he knew what he was doing. But she describes him as somebody who didn't meet the standard criteria, right? He didn't.
Exactly, yeah.
His form wasn't, the standard boxer form, but his head game was strong. And so he knew he had the skill, but he also knew, more importantly, that if he got into people's heads, he would take them off of their game. And now we recognize his skill as like valid boxing skill, but at the time, he wasn't supposed to make it, right?
Well, yeah, but if you think about it, that's the way it is in like almost every aspect of life now. It's True. Like if you don't fit this certain mold, you're never going to be successful. Right. If you don't do what X did, A, B, C, D through Z, you'll never be successful. And what Carol really talked about was, no, if you understand that this is not the end, and you could go back and work on your skills and develop your own style and develop your own work ethic, Michael Jordan being one of them. Right. He wasn't picked for his first team. Right. Right? Right. But he knew if he kept on working and working and working, something might break. Right? Absolutely. So so that's how I feel about it. It's just I really try to implement that in my girls in terms of I know. I really try to implement that in my girls in terms of just like, I know they're 4 and 6, so I'm not going to be this overbearing dad of like work, but I don't want them to understand, to do I failed once, screw it. Right. Right. I'm gonna do something else. Yeah. I mean, and you think about it like in team sports, right? I think we don't think about all the second chances we get in team sports, but nobody makes every single basket, every single shot that they take on the basketball court, right? And so if you look at the great shooters like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Reggie Miller, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, right? They've all missed, LeBron James, they've all missed a ton of shots, but they have worked extremely hard outside of the gym to just improve on that skill because they believe that they can do it. And I think even in my own, I call myself a former athlete. I don't know if where that athlete title really ends, but I still work out. And a friend of mine I'm working with him as a trainer right now, and he's like stupid strong, right? And does all these like crazy things, these push-ups where he levitates off the ground and looks like a flying squirrel with his, his feet and hands on the same plane. And it just blows my mind. And even when I see that, I'm like, I could never do that. And I go into the gym. He's like, well, here, try this. I'm like, it's not going to work. And then I pick up the weight and it's light. And I'm like, what? I can do that? And so sometimes it is really important to surround ourselves with people who can help us in that growth mindset, who might see potential in us that we don't see in ourselves. Because there's no way I'd be doing half the stuff that I do because I don't always know my own potential. And so my mindset gets limited because I only know what I know, right? But being exposed to other people and their greatness, their capabilities, coupled with the growth mindset, like who knows? Maybe I'll be a weightlifting champion one day. Probably not, but maybe. But like, let's look at why, me personally, I look at why the fixed mindset is so rampant now. And granted, we're doing this for Instagram and we're doing this for YouTube and social media, but you have to look at the highlight reel of social media. You have to look at the highlight reel of Instagram. People only put up their best shit. Sorry if I cuss it.
That's all right. Do you?
people only put up their best stuff in this day and age.
It's true.
So as this person or kid or whoever you are, you see these people and you're like, oh my God, how are they doing that? But you didn't see the thousands of hours dedicated, the thousands of hours of failure, like you said with Kobe and LeBron and all those guys.
Right.
You just see the 30-second or the 1 minute highlight reel, and most people look at that and it's like, I could never do that, and that is a fixed mindset. They don't see. They don't see the practice. They don't see the study. They don't see the research. They just see this person doing amazing things. Right. And I think the fixed mindset is very rampant because of social media. Even though social media is a great piece of technology, or human technology, I think that's where it's coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree. I think there's all this like overnight celebrity, overnight success, but we never talk about how many hours or how many years someone put in to be discovered, quote unquote, overnight, right? There isn't really such a thing as overnight. Maybe you found out about them last night. Right. But they were working long before then. So you were telling me that you have a client with an awesome mindset who is an inspiration to you. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah. So I'll just use her first name just for privacy reasons. But in terms of mindset and in terms of like inspiration, you know, everybody has that one person they go to. Everybody has that one quote that they pull up when shit is going bad. But this is my person for right now. So her name is Kim, and a couple months ago I got an email from Kim, and she was like, "I'm looking for training. I only walked the lake, and I just want to be a little bit fitter." So me being in the position that I am was like, yeah, let's meet up. We'll go over evaluation and blah blah blah, and then we'll get the show on the road. Right. She didn't tell me any of her history, so she comes in, and she is pushing 70. Inspiration number 1. Yes. She is completely blind. Inspiration number 2. Right. And then in our assessment, she's like, "Oh, by the way, I have stage 4 cancer." Wow. And I sat in my chair. I was like, "What?" Right. I'm like, "Past tense, had stage 4 cancer," and she's like, "No, have stage 4 cancer." And the cancer itself has metastasized, meaning that the cancer has spread from her lungs into her bones, and it's spreading. Right. But the whole time we're having this interview, she's laughing. We're smoking and joking. Not literally smoking, but you know. She's like, okay. Yeah, we're smoking and joking, and I couldn't help but like ask her why. Right. I couldn't help but like ask her why. Like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to train with me or train in general? And she was like, I could be at home, in bed, in the dark, not giving my best fight, right, towards this huge battle that she has to face, or I could, and her words were, I could change my mindset being the key word, and bring the best fight that I can towards this thing, right. And the whole time we've been training together, the doctors told us straight up that the chemo is 90% a waste. Like, it's stage 4. Dang. You know, it's a curtain call, and the whole time she's like, I'm bringing my best fight. Bringing my best fight. So she goes in for a checkup, and the doctors are like, wait a minute, that cancer has stopped spreading. So for me, I don't have a PhD or an MD or whatever, but to
Right.
me, that really like elucidates the power of mindset. It's
Right.
like if she went into this whole thing with like, "Woe is me, this is it, it's a wrap."
It'd be a wrap.
I hate to say this, but she could be, it'll be a wrap. It'll be
Right.
like, next, move on. But the whole time she was like, I'm bringing my best fight. I'm getting some sunlight. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to do my chemo. And I think more importantly than working with me and the sunlight and all this other stuff, she had an amazing community of people around her.
Mm-hmm.
Quick story, like when she found out she had cancer, she only had 80% insurance coverage for the treatment. And she was like, once again, mindset, most people would be like, it's a wrap.
Right.
Right? But because of the power of her community, her longtime friend,
Mm-hmm.
no sexual relationship or anything, was like, let's get married.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
So you could get the coverage you need to beat this thing.
Wow.
So I think it's coupled with mindset, it's coupled with her community, it's coupled with her bringing her best fight, that the cancer has stopped. It's still stage 4, but the cancer itself has stopped. So,
wow.
So for me, every time I'm laying in bed and I'm like, I'm sore, and I just want to watch Netflix.
Right.
She pops in my head and I'm like, okay, even if it's a 30-minute workout,
right,
even if it's a 10-minute workout, I'm going to do something.
Right.
And then it also like makes me more cognizant of my community, because when she said she had a friend who got married to her so she could get health insurance, I was like, do I have any friends who would get married to me?
Right. What does my circle look like?
Exactly. Like I know this conversation is about mindset, but it's also the community also influences your mindset. You are who you become, right?
It is true.
Like, if you're around a bunch of people who are like, it's a wrap, dude, you're going to think it's a wrap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so she's my go-to person. Every time I want to be lazy, every time I want to eat bad food, every time I want to be, a shortcut dad, it's like, nope, I can't do it.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's super powerful. I also just think, as I was thinking about it, like, why not choose to have a growth mindset? I know that it is risky sometimes to think that if we try something and fail, that in the fixed mindset, the failure is what destroys people, because you don't believe you can be better. And so you think, this is what it is. I'm not going to try anymore. And then because I'm not going to try, I'm not going to fail. Right. But like, really, in life, what is the point of not trying? Like, why not?
Well, there's this one guy I'm a big fan of. His name is Mark Twight. And he owns a gym in Utah called Jim Jones. And, basically what he said is, there's nothing new under the sun in terms of fitness. You could cut it, rearrange it, and do whatever you want, but there's nothing new. There's, Zumba and yoga and bar and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But what he said is, the mind is primary, and the mind tends to want to be comfortable.
Right.
The fixed mindset is very comfortable.
True. You know what it is. No surprises.
There's no surprises. I tried, didn't work, peace.
Right.
Let's do something else. And it's so comfortable that most people gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
It's like, let's use you and my fiance, for example. Like, you guys went to law school. That is a really hard task. Some people are like, nope.
Shout out to Amara, by the way.
Some people are like, that's too hard. I'll just do paralegal work. No shade to paralegal work.
No, because that's the program I'm running in Sacramento, paralegal. So that's good work too.
No shade to paralegals. No shade to paralegals. But it's like, some people see the mountain of law school and they're just like, nah, I don't want to do that. Because it's comfortable. And he was like, you have to train your mind to be uncomfortable. And the growth mindset for all intents and purposes, is not comfortable at all.
Right. Right.
You know, I go back to Kim. And here's the crazy part about Kim. She takes herself to chemo and then takes herself back home to chemo. There's nothing comfortable about that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think that's also, for me, what sports and what entrepreneurship has taught me is that, like, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. In sports, you learn early on that the workouts are going to suck, right? But they're going to get easier and at the same time get harder because you can do more. But the results are going to come, right? And so you are trained, especially in team sports, this is the part that's uncomfortable. Here we are growing together. But the book also discusses, I think it's John McEnroe, tennis star, right? Yeah, tennis. Who, like when he was at the tip top, he attributed to innate ability, but then when he would fall down, it was always somebody else's fault. And he really had this fixed mindset of that this was his ability. And so he couldn't stand to see other people win and didn't take his losses as a growth opportunity. So his trajectory was really up and down, even though he is a famous tennis star and we talk about him, right? Whereas, like, if you look at Tiger Woods, for example, because he just came back after back surgery, right? And you talk about in golf, like, it's so hard to be consistent in your swing in golf. There are so many other factors about how you play, but you have to have that mindset of a champion that you're going to get better. And to come back from back surgery, what, 2 years ago, a year or 2 years ago, and then to come in and win, like, if that's not believing you can do it, then what is? Or even Boogie Cousins on the Warriors right now, tore his Achilles, right, last year, made that comeback. There are a number of comeback stories, but you can't do it. You can't get better if you don't believe you can, and that belief that you can comes from a growth mindset.
Yeah, you know, there are all these sports psychologists who basically say you learn nothing from winning. Like if you started off your whole career, sports, academia, whatever, and you just were winning from day one, eventually you might lose. And what do you look? You're like, how do I cope with this? It completely screws up your mindset. There's this one. I do jiu-jitsu, and there's this one jiu-jitsu champion. He from the get-go, he was a winner from day one. And there was this older jiu-jitsu champion who basically figured out, oh, this guy's a winner from day one. All I have to do is put him in an uncomfortable situation. And all he did was put him in an uncomfortable situation, and guess what? He won. So it's like, I think the growth mindset is huge, but it's not very comfortable, and a lot of people are not comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I agree. I think also, like, the benefit of the growth mindset is that when you fail, you believe it's not over, right? Whereas fixed mindset, when you fail, it's over. So growth mindset is just healthy, not even just for getting to where you want to go, but like, why let one failure be the be all end all to whatever your path is? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. And the beautiful thing is that we can choose to move forward and to grow.
Well, going back to the highlight reel, it's like you look at all these people being successful from the jump, and you not you, but like you the individual, you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to do X, and then you try it one time and it doesn't work out. You're like, oh, well, so and so did it one time. No, they didn't. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't.
Totally.
You know, so. But I think if there's one thing I could implement in my kids, more so than like resiliency, more so than like independence, is learn from your losses in terms of like, okay, this didn't work out, whatever it is. Instead of saying, screw it, sit back, observe, okay, where did I go wrong in this situation? Where can I improve, and then reassess and then attack again. You know, I think that's a lost quality in terms of like getting ahead. There's this one guy who said, his name is David Goggins, They call him the hardest man on the planet.
Hmm.
Yeah. Look him up. He just wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me.
Okay.
So he's a brother.
Mm-hmm.
He's half black, half white. And he's the only man to do Navy SEAL training 3 times in a row. The only man, yeah, the only man to do Army Ranger 2 times in a row. He has run 35 Badwater triathlon, which is in Death Valley. It's 100 degrees. Anyway, they call him the hardest man on the planet.
This is all by choice?
This is all by choice.
Okay, I'm still listening.
He has a saying, basically. He has a couple sayings. One is, you have to callous your mind. He's like, no one is ever going to give you anything in this world. Right. He's like, you have to make your mind comfortable with being uncomfortable. And 2, he also says, in this day and age, it's easy to be great because a lot of people try things and then give up.
Right.
And he's like, all you got to do is be persistent.
Right. It's true. It's true. I think about, I guess, the last story that I'll share on my end is, way back in my basketball playing days, we all have those games, or every once in a while, we'd have those games where it seemed like none of our shots would fall, right? Mm-hmm. And fixed mindset would just say, like, we're just having an off shooting day, maybe we'll get the next one. But one of my coaches always used to say to us, do the little things. Do the things that you can control. Your shots aren't falling now, but hustle after the rebound. Go after every loose ball and get on the floor. Box somebody out under the basket. And go in for 2 points. Don't always shoot the 3 if your shot's not falling. This is also my advice for the Golden State Warriors, but they don't listen to me, right? And eventually, we would see the changes that doing the little things would make, right? Like, we'd box out and we'd get the defensive stop. We'd be more energized down on offense. We'd go in and get 2 points, and then all of a sudden it would make, stepping out away from the basket a little easier, and then eventually our 3s would fall. But if we believed that we only had one shot, the 3-pointer, and if that wasn't going in, we would have lost, not every game, but we would have lost a lot, right? Mm-hmm. But even when that wasn't working, there was always something else that we could do to work harder, or just to work hard in general to change the outcome, right? To get it more in line with what we wanted to do. And it wasn't always about, like, winning championships are great, but the games that really stand out are the ones that we really had to fight for and came out on top, whether it was just a regular league game or whether it was in playoff times. So, even if that big goal doesn't look like it's going to happen right away, do the little things to keep setting yourself up. So I can't squat 300 pounds, but maybe I can, get some dumbbells and work on it, or do some yoga and work on flexibility, and eventually I'll get there. And what's the point of believing that you can't? It doesn't do you any good.
It goes back to the being comfortable. It's like, all right, I can't squat 300 pounds. I have a friend. She has a really cool saying in terms of how people look at diet. Yeah. And it's hilarious. She's like, just because you have a flat tire doesn't mean you go slash all 3.
That's true. I'm going to tattoo that on my forehead, right?
And I asked her to explain that. She's like, some people will try this diet, and then one day they have, some ice cream, and it's like, oh my God, I had some ice cream. Right. I'm going to go eat the whole carton of ice cream. Right. And then just keep the train going and eat more and more and more and more, more crap. And she was like, a lot of people do that. They're like, screw it. I have a flat tire. I'm just going to slash the other 3, because instead of like, okay, I had some ice cream. It's not the end of the world. Right. Get back on the wagon and keep on moving forward. So I think that's how the fixed mindset is to me. It's like, oh, screw it. I'm just go. I don't need these 3 other tires.
Right. So, like, just because you lit the match doesn't mean you got to burn the whole house down. Let that match burn for a little bit, blow it out, and get it back together.
But if you could attest to this as well. Like, we see that behavior. It's like, It doesn't work, so it's never going to work. So screw it. Screw
Right.
it all. You
Yeah.
know?
And guess what? It's
So,
so much easier to identify in other people than it is in ourselves. So my challenge to myself every day is to just try and be a little bit better and to be self-reflective, to take inventory of, where I'm at, what I'm doing. Is it helping me get to where I want to go? And if not, what changes do I need to make?
I'm taking this nutrition course right now, and
Hmm.
it's called Precision Nutrition. I won't go into what it is,
I know
but
what that is.
in in terms of nutrition coaching and stuff like that, they say, at the end of the day, you have to reassess your day. It's like, okay,
Yes.
like you just said, it's like, did I drink water? I didn't drink as much as I should, but I drank some.
Right.
Okay, put some points in there, and then tomorrow try to do some more, and then
Right.
the day after that try to do some more, instead of like, I didn't drink any water, screw it.
Right.
I'm going back to drinking Cokes all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so powerful how strong the mind is in terms of self advancement. Like I said in the beginning, you could have the best coach, the best training program, the best everything, but if your mind's not into it, it's never going to work.
Right. Right.
So
I agree. Well, thank you so much. I won't take up any more of your time. If you guys are still looking for Mindset, here is the book. I bought the book, but I also started listening to the audiobook as well. I drive back and forth to Sacramento, so I have plenty of car time to listen. So there are definitely ways to ingest the content that don't involve just reading. You can listen to it too. So let us know if you have any questions. We will be back again. I am 100% certain. I can't remember what we're talking about next week. I think next week I'm doing business. So, so join in. Thanks, Fabian.
All right. Anytime.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.